Hello everybody, here we are. I hope I'm audible right now. And again, as said earlier, after a break, we are back again, and we are gonna be talking about these things only. So far we have gone through these many things: designing URL shortener. Now we will be talking about this again. There are gonna be some common things, and especially the things that have been discussed quite a lot. So we will not be diving deeper into that. Having said that, we'll try to cover as many as possible. Okay, when it comes to this notification system, so it's simply you need to just simply ask some questions like what kind of notification system you want to build, and then once the notification system is built, what kind of like system it will be, like a real time system or soft real time system. There is a difference between them. Soft real time system in the sense it's not gonna be exactly accurate like real time. uh, Real time means the result is gonna be shown at the real time, at the present time, exactly at the current time. Soft real time means it's gonna be just simply processed in some kind of intervals. Okay, in some intervals ultimately, not exactly real time. And apart from this particular thing, service notification service executor client, we okay, that's simple. This is gonna be back of the envelope calculation. Okay, let's not worry about this. Again, you can just simply go through this particular thing, exactly how this back of the calculation is done, and then bandwidth calculation, how much bandwidth it's gonna be taking. Okay, this thing can be discussed as well. And again, this comes under back of the envelope calculation only. This is the calculation that you can just simply do. Like suppose you have 20 million users, and if you are sending a request, that request has the payload of 1 KB. It could be even more than that, probably 2 KB or something. And then hence there are 20 million users, and suppose in a day, out of those 20 millions, at least 50% users, that simply means 10 million users use your application on a daily basis. So 10 million multiplied by 2 KB or 1 KB, depends on the payload that you have, headers and all, and you can just simply calculate it and get the result. And apart from this particular thing, your service will be just simply making a request to the notification service to just simply send the notification. When it comes to notification, there are different kinds of notifications. There are what I mean there are email notifications, there are SMS notifications, there is app level notifications. So there are different kinds of notifications that can actually be sent. And apart from this particular thing, there are some of the APIs that are actually been talked about here. So you can just there can be an API for fetching the notifications, there can be an API for sending the notification, there can be an API for fetching the notification history. So ultimately it's completely up to you. Lastly, the important thing actually comes here, that is especially the last diagram is this. So let's simply go through this one, and almost all the things are gonna be covered in this particular diagram. So what actually happens over here, that there are different kinds of services. They are gonna be just simply asking your notification service to just simply send the notifications, and they're gonna be notification database where the history is gonna be stored, and that's gonna be cache where the cache is going to be stored, so that it can be just simply fetched easily. And apart from this particular thing, there can be there can be messaging queues, and those messaging queues will have their own workers. So ultimately you are going to be pushing the data here. Workers are going to be just simply getting the data, will be just simply forwarding it to the client. So ultimately, first of all, they will use some kind of service to just send the email to the client. So either that can be on mobiles, that can be on iPhones and all, that can be the email, SMS, that can be email or SMS. Ultimately that can be anything. And for these types of notifications, there are some services that are already there. Using those services, you can just simply send the email. So workers are gonna use these services. Suppose probably on mobile, we have APMs, if I'm not wrong, application. I forgotten the full form of it. Let me see. What is the full form of this? Yeah, here it is. So on iOS devices, on Apple, ultimately we have APMs, Apple push notifications. For Android, we have FCM, Firebase cloud messaging. For SMS notifications, we have video or Nexmo, etc. And for email, we have Mailchimp, Send, Grid, we have Node Mailer, and Mailtap, and we have Resend that has recently come. Okay, so we have many options here, so we can simply use them. And this is how the request is actually gonna be sent. DB sharding, what is this? Okay, so this is it. It's pretty simple, right? So what you have to actually keep in mind whenever you are building any application, doesn't matter this one or some other one, So ultimately you have to ask normal questions first of all. So normal questions you have to ask, just simply know more about your application, so know more about it. Okay, just know how many features are gonna be there, what it is gonna be supporting, what it is not gonna be supporting. So you have to know everything about your application. The second thing that is you have to assume. So you have to assume the users, assume the request that you are gonna be getting, assume the storage that it may consume for a request, then calculate it for 5 years down the line. So this is how assume. So ultimately assumption. So you're gonna be just simply assuming some other things. Once you have done this thing, so you are gonna be calculating back of the envelope calculation, so that this way you know about your you have the overall idea exactly how this thing is gonna be handled, how this much traffic is going to be handled. Then you are gonna be knowing about APIs, so you will think exactly what kinds of APIs are gonna be used for your application. Once you have done this, once you have gone through the API section as well, then you have to just worry about the overall flow, how you are gonna be getting the flow, how you will be even there can be many things, how you are gonna be uh, kind of horizontally scaling this, how you will be scaling the servers, how you will be scaling the databases, DBs, and how you are going to be implementing the cache, and even you will have to scale it, how you will be implementing rate limiting. So rate, there are algorithms for it, even there are algorithms for load balancer, so how you will be implementing load balancer, there are different algorithms for it. And apart from this particular thing, cache we have already gone through. So ultimately these are the things that you can just simply go through. So these are sort of the steps. First of all, ask the questions, know more about your application, then assume some of the things, do the back of the envelope calculation, figure out the APIs, what kinds of APIs are going to be required, and then start working on the flow. So how the flow is going to be looking like, how you will scale the load, how you will what kind of algorithm you will be using for the load balancer, how you will scale the database, how you will scale the server, how you will scale the cache, how you will rate limit. So ultimately there are many things here, so you can just simply go through them one by one. We've sort of gone through this particular section as well. So the next one is gonna be messaging queue and pub sub. So this is gonna be all about caching, exactly how this caching stuff works. Again, when it comes to caching, so there are some algorithms for the caching as well, so we are gonna be just simply going through them. So let me do one thing, close everything. From here on we have to actually go through each and everything, because in previous things were already covered somewhere or the other. These are the, like I made notes, I've gone through them once, but it's good to just simply go through them there. So when it comes to messaging queues in PubSub model, and also messaging queue, PubSub model, queue, Kafka, important, and RabbitMQ. So we are going to be discussing about all these things. So Kafka is not just messaging queues. In Kafka, I mean, there are many uses of the Kafka, and especially when it comes to Kafka. So using Kafka, you can even implement stream. I mean, there can be many things actually. So as for right now, Kafka is going to be used as just a messaging queue. That doesn't mean it is just a messaging queue. So ultimately, what's gonna happen, that there's gonna be a producer in the sense any service that will be just simply uh, asking you to just simply send the email. So that's gonna be a producer. So message is gonna be produced, all the metadata is gonna be produced over here, the payload is gonna be produced over here. That will be passed to the queue. Queue will be forwarding it to the consumer, so that there can be any worker that will just simply get the request from here, and it will just simply implement a specific service for getting the job done, and will be just simply getting the job done. Okay, by the way, this is done. Then benefit of producer and consumer. Producer can and consumer work on their own pace. Ultimately what it means that suppose producer can quickly produce a lot of requests. So, okay, producer can do that, and those requests are gonna be stored in a queue. And consumer, if it doesn't have good spec and all, in that particular case it's gonna be slow. But even if it is slow and producer is quite fast, it will still be able to consume slowly. So it has to just simply take the request from the queue and process that, then take another one, process that. So doesn't matter how fast producer works, consumer will just simply keep working slowly and will get the job done. Okay, synchronous communication, this is already done. 200 milliseconds ideal. This is MS1 messaging server 1, this is messaging server 2. Synchronous communication, async communication, this went over my head. Okay, I know the difference between synchronous and asynchronous, but what does it mean here? So we have different messaging servers. So this is the one, this is the two, and this messaging server is gonna be making a request to the messaging server 2, and it will get the 200 response. Okay, HTTP get request. Okay, got it. So ultimately what happens that if you are just simply sending the request directly to the if I'm not wrong over here, because nothing specific has been mentioned over here. So ultimately what happens over here, that if you are directly sending the request, so there are gonna be synchronous requests. That simply means once you send the request, that's gonna be synchronously processed. And when it comes to async, so if you are sending the request, so your job is, if there are two messaging servers, so the messaging server 1 will just simply send the response. I'll simply send a request, that's gonna be set, that's gonna be sent into a queue. And just a minute. Alright, just got a call, so I have to actually go further. But okay, never mind. So we were just simply talking about this. So if I'm, this is something that I have to know more about. So that's gonna be a to do. Sing. So if I'm not wrong, asynchronous means you have to just simply await that. Awaiting that in the sense that's gonna be. I have to know more about it, exactly how the overall flow looks like. In JavaScript, we have some kind of schedulers, if I'm not wrong. They just simply, this is something I have to know more about. So synchronous versus synchronous, I actually have to go somewhere, but okay, never mind. And okay, never mind, we have to just simply go through it. It is already on, so we will be getting it done. Then we have busy service, normal service, that is fine. And it turns out there's a lot that we have to go through, so I'd better just come back and then start going through the things one by one. Yeah, there is a lot. So unfortunately I have to just simply leave right now, but whenever I'm done, I'll be back, like after not 10 minutes, after half an hour I'll be back, and we will continue from here on. So first of all, we'll figure it out exactly how this thing, what this thing is actually referring to, and then we'll continue to the next one. Okay, that is it. I'm gonna be catching up soon. This is how it's gonna be going on. As for right now, that is it. Bye bye, take care, and I'm gonna be catching up soon. Sorry for that.